Welcome to Power Your Story.
Power Your Story podcast is produced by students at After School Matters with production support from the Creative and Poster Studios.
Enjoy the show.
Hey there, it's Power Your Story Program Director Andrea Klunder. As we are wrapping up Mental Health Awareness Month, May 2023, I wanted to share a few conversations that our student producers have recorded about various aspects of mental health. And I know this topic is important to you because it's one that always shows up on our season planning, brainstorms, and Jamboards. In this episode, Elvis, Emerie, Alejandro, and Jules interviewed Ashley Scott. Ashley is a Chicago-based mental health advocate, peer support specialist, visual artist, fashion design student, Lego aficionado, and my friend. We wanted to let you know that towards the middle of this conversation, Ashley briefly talks about how suicide and suicidal ideation has shown up in her life and in her family. While this is a difficult topic, it's one that we think is important to talk about because even though we're having more conversations than ever about mental health, according to a whole lot of studies, the rate of depression and suicide amongst teens still continues to climb. That said, if you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide, help is available. Please call 988 any time of day or night. And in any case, if you are struggling with mental health, anxiety, or depression, please reach out to someone at your school, your medical provider, or an adult that you trust to help you find support. We've included the links to both some national and local Chicago resources in the show notes. You can find them in the episode description in your app and at poweryourstorypodcast.com. All in all, this is a joyful, supportive, and encouraging conversation with Ashley, and we hope that you will listen all the way through.
Welcome to Power Your Story Podcast. My name is Jules, and here are my co-hosts Emerie, Alejandro, and Elvis. Today's episode will be dedicated to mental health, when we'll be interviewing Ashley Scott, a peer support specialist and mental health advocate. We will ask her questions regarding her career and ask her for advice.
Okay, so hi, my name is Elvis. What is the difference between a peer support specialist and a therapist?
Hi, Elvis. Great question. A therapist is someone with a license, and their job is really to help people really understand the deeper aspects of why they are experiencing maybe sadness or depressive symptoms. Peer support looks like those people who may run a support group, those people who really are people with lived experience of a mental health condition. They're either living through it or in recovery. So they're not licensed. I didn't go to school in psychology or anything like that. What I do is I use my experience to try to really help people to know that there's hope through their experiences, through their condition.
What are a good skills to have if you have a profession involving mental health or if you want to help people with mental health issues?
What I like to say to people is that it really takes a lot of patience and compassion. A part of what I do is also helping people with the understanding and education around what mental health is. And because there's a lot of stigma, which is negative ideas and beliefs around what mental health is, due to what we learn from our media, what we learn from movies, TV shows about how, if someone has a mental illness, that means that they're going to hurt people or they're evil. And so it can be really hard for people to seek treatment. Their families may not understand what they're going through. That can contribute to how hard it is for them to talk to a therapist or to talk to someone to find help. And that can make their symptoms or experiences worse. So it's really important to have people that understand and that can go really slow. A therapist or a person with lived experience like me may understand from their firsthand experience or academic experience of what a thing is or what a person is going through, but they don't really know what's going on in a person's body. So it really takes a lot of patience and compassion to be able to help people.
What techniques do you use to help cause social change and support and empowerment with people?
Yeah, so I have worked in several organizations that have allowed me to be creative in the way that I help people. And so sometimes that means just making space for people to be able to think about their positive traits of themselves, sometimes exploring hobbies. What has helped me is doing Legos, but some people really like art. Some people really like crafts. And so making space for people to be able to find things that are new that they can have enjoyment in is helpful, even in just helping them to process what they're going through. So as a peer, I know that that's important because creativity is really the first thing to go when you are dealing with mental health challenges. So the other part is as a mental health advocate. Most people advocate for legislation, different laws and bills that would help people with mental health conditions or people who are getting mental health services. The type of advocacy that I do is around education. And so what is really important for me is to be able to share my story of recovery so that people know that there's hope. If someone is experiencing something that is so overwhelming that they don't know that they could ever get through it, hearing somebody else's story, even if it's not similar at all, just to know that someone has gone through something really, really hard and they are getting better is really something that helped me, and I hope empowers people and really helps them to, at the very least, take the next step of getting help or seeking help, talking to someone, reaching out, or maybe even just, staying alive for a little bit longer and sticking out for a little bit longer.
Hi, Ashley. My name's Emerie. So, start off, my first question is, what forms of communication do you use with people you are trying to help?
In terms of connecting with people, it has been really hard during the pandemic. I wasn't able to do more like one-on-one things, but what I did lean into is the more advocate side, as well as helping with education. I have been working with the National Alliance on Mental Illness since about 2017, advocating for more support for the Black community around mental health, and also working with organizations that do mental health research and helping them develop curriculums around people being able to do more peer support. What's great about this role, what I do, is really that I have to really reach out to organizations or reach out to people and say, hey, how can I help? Hey, this is how I'm feeling, or this is what I'm seeing a lot of people go through. How can I be a part of making that change or being a part of the improvement that I want to see in the world?
And you seem like a very outgoing person with that, to have to go and talk to people and find out ways you can help.
It's really hard, honestly. I am kind of outgoing, but I am really shy. But when it comes to social change, I'm the type of person, I don't like to look at other people to do things. I'm not the type of person that's like, oh, they should be changing this, or why aren't they doing something about this? I ask myself, what can I do about this? I may not have enough money to change this. Okay, what do I have an abundance of? Okay, I have a lot of time on my hands. What can I do with my time, and how can I share this time with other people to be able to help improve things? Like, it takes small steps for us to get to where we really want to be, but we have to take the first one first.
Yes, thank you. That's really inspiring because I have anxiety, so it's really hard to find the courage to go reach out and want to do a change. So it's really nice to hear that you are shy, but you're still going out trying to make a change. But that also goes into my next question I had is like, what parts of your career do you struggle with or have difficulty with at times?
Honestly, just like you, Emerie, I struggle with anxiety. So I like to share it with people, my diagnosis, because I think that it is helpful. So I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder. I was diagnosed with panic disorder, which is a type of anxiety disorder. And I was diagnosed with PTSD recently. And so those things are really challenging. Like it can be really debilitating, some of the experiences that come from that. Managing my own mental health and really staying within my body and in my space and maintaining my hobbies and things that I enjoy while I have this purpose and this goal and really this inspiring mission that I have inside to help other people. I also have to have like, it's not a balance, it's more so I have to remind myself every day to check in with how much of the energy that I have every day, how much of that did I give to myself? And so some days it's really unbalanced. Some days I've given 98% to other people. And I'm like, wow, that's not enough for myself. So the next day I kind of have to adjust that. All of that is challenging, as well as having a job that it doesn't require you to share your story, but it's kind of like as a peer support specialist, you take the job of sharing your story. That's majority of your job. You allow yourself to share your story in order to help people, right? To share hope and to help them through their challenging times. Sometimes people's stories look just like yours. Particularly, I work with youth and young adults, and that's really where my passion is. And so I see young adults, particularly young women, going through the things that I went through, and it breaks my heart. And sometimes I get really triggered by that, and I have to remind myself and have coping skills and have, like, what would I call it? Like a ritual of some sort to help myself get back to me and to set boundaries around, okay, I believe in this person. I believe that they have the skills, they have the tools, and I'm helping them, right? I'm a shoulder to lean on in a sense, but I am not the reason why they are going to be successful. I am not the reason why they are going to be able to recover things, that have harmed them in their condition or in their life. They are going to be the ones. And I'm just going to help them to see that. Like, I'm just here in this moment of challenging time to just help them see that. And so sometimes it really is hard to separate yourself from other people's stories when they look just like yours. And you're like, oh my goodness, I remember when I was going through that and how hard it was. And you can really go back there mentally. And it is really hard. So every now and again, you just have to come to a ritual, like I was saying before, of just reminding yourself of who you are and why you're doing the work that you're doing. This is what I have to do.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I understand like how hard it must be to like share some stuff, like especially like diagnosis, because I don't like sharing that either. But I want to like let you know that I'm sure many people are grateful to hear that from you, and I am too, that like you're able to share your story like that. And I'm glad that you're learning how to like balance yourself also when it comes to your job. So thank you so much again for that. And my final question for you is, so would you ever be interested in being a public speaker? And if so, what topics would you address?
I appreciate this question so much because when you're sharing your story, I think that you get to a point where you don't realize that not only are you speaking to people publicly, but you are also motivating them with your story. And not only are you motivating them with your story, but the way that you construct your story, and this is when I say you, I mean me and other people who do this kind of work, we work on the story and we try to make sure that we show the reality of the ups and downs and also share what we have gained from the experience to be able to help people and empower people and to understand that there is hope, right? And so through that, you don't really realize that you are more than a motivational speaker, but you start to transform the way that mental health is looked at by sharing your story. The more people that share their story, people start to get a glimpse of the diversity of what a condition can look like. And at the end of the day, it looks like regular people who are trying to do good in the world or just trying to go about their everyday lives. And they have just experienced something or is going through a condition that can be challenging. So I'm working on getting out there even more. So that's why I'm really grateful for this opportunity. But it can be hard, Emerie, as we were talking about, like anxiety, it's sometimes really hard to market yourself. When you're experiencing anxiety, you have these ideas. For me, I have these ideas of perfection and what my image is supposed to be and all of these things and social media and all of the layers of what I'm supposed to do. And it could be really intimidating. So I am trying to move forward with public speaking. And the topics I would want to address are around, more about mental health. And I really believe that people should, just like we have annual exams for our physical health and like having check-ins, I think that at the very least, we all should have annual mental health check-ins, at least for 30 minutes to an hour with someone, a professional psychiatrist, psychologist, or therapist, or someone, counselor, just to be able to check in on our mental health and see how we may be able to implement things in our lives that will support our mental health. That doesn't mean that you have to have a diagnosis to be able to check in on your mental health. I think everyone should be doing that, just like their physical health. And another topic for me that can be really hard for other people to talk about is around suicide. And I want to be able to talk about that more so that we are really able to understand how serious mental health conditions are, where they can lead, and also help prevent experiences and people dying by suicide. I think that's really important. So usually in my story, I share about that.
Thank you again so much for sharing this. And I hope the best for your journey and getting out there more. And I like hearing that you think that we should have annual checkups more for our mental health. I really like that idea, and I wish that was more worked towards, because it is a good thing, and I feel like that's really important too. So once again, thank you so much, and I'm gonna pass it off to Alejandro now.
Thank you, Emerie.
What is the difference between mental illness and a mental health cause?
So the difference between a mental illness and a mental health condition really is just the terms. But I like using, and a lot of other people in the kind of peer community or people who have experienced different diagnoses of their mental health, really like the term mental health condition, because it focuses on the condition. It focuses on really what the thing is. If someone is diagnosed with depression or major depressive disorder is the diagnosis. And if they are diagnosed with that, it is a condition. It is not something that has to be their full identity. And sometimes, because mental illness has so much negative connotation around it, for me, mental health condition is a term that I guess feels nicer to me.
What made you become a peer support specialist?
So what made me be a peer support specialist was that I had been struggling with my mental health for a long time, probably since I was in high school, but I didn't have the education or understanding around what my mental health was and why it was important or any of the things that I know now. And so in 2013, my brother passed by suicide. It was a really big experience. It was really hard for myself and my family to really understand and grasp. And through trying to get support and therapy for that experience, I realized that, wow, he probably was going through some really hard things to make that decision. I have been in that place before where I was going through really hard times and I wanted to do the same thing. And so before it gets there, what can I do? What kind of support can someone get? And so I started looking everywhere for support. When I was looking, I started to realize, wow, why didn't I already know these things are out there? I started going to a grief support group and a nutrition class and another kind of support group. I was doing all of these things. I was like, wow, there's a lot of things that I now, because I was searching for them, I'm finding, but a lot of people don't know these things are out here. So I actually was having an experience of suicide ideation, which is like thinking about harming myself, but I hadn't done anything. I didn't want to really. I was just having a really, really, really hard time. And it seemed like the only thing that would help me. But something came over me and it was just like, wow, Ashley, there's other people that are going through harder things than you are going through. What if they knew that there was just someone out there that was going through hard things and maybe that it was okay? And so I started looking for opportunities maybe to help people because I was like, I learn best when I'm teaching, like when I'm helping someone else. And it's kind of like we're helping each other. And so I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And started looking for opportunities. I started working with NAMI probably a couple months later. I was able to get help through that time. And so that was really where it started. And then I was at therapy and I got the opportunity to be a part of a training that really helped people understand how they can, like regular people, like people living with mental health conditions, how they can be a part of mental health research and changing the ways that mental health research is done, especially for marginalized communities. And that was really important to me. I was like, wow, like it really blew my mind that anyone was thinking about that. And so that's kind of where it started. I was having a hard time. I wanted to help people because I wanted help for myself. And I wanted people to know that there was help. So it's kind of all connected that way.
Thank you. What does a normal work day look like for you?
It's really hard to say what a normal work day looks like. When I was working in an organization, usually in the beginning of the day, I would kind of get the list of people that I would be working with. I usually had a caseload of people. I would try to reach out to them, like have a phone call with them or something, schedule a meeting. I usually have one-on-one sessions with people. And I would think about, okay, what is this person working on? Maybe this person is working on things that are more based on housing. They may be based on wanting to find food pantries. So some things more, I guess, practical. Some people are working on things that are more like emotional. Maybe they had an experience of sadness or breakup or something like that. And we might do something more creative. And then I would have to document experiences that I had with people so that their insurance would be able to pay for it through the organization I was working with.
Thank you, Ashley. I pass it to Jules.
Thank you, Alejandro.
You're welcome.
Hi Ashley, I'm Jules. So earlier you had mentioned how you tell your own stories about your own mental health. So my question was, how do you deal with your own mental health? What do you do to deal with it? Do you have self-care days or do you journal? What do you do?
So for my own mental health, there's a couple of things that I do. I have a therapist that I work with. I have doctors that I work with that help me to understand medication, for anxiety. I've gone through kind of a new journey of understanding medication for depression for myself. And that has been challenging. I've learned a lot of things. On the other end, a lot of the things that I do for my mental health is really slowing down and kind of counteracting my thoughts. Sometimes I really go into understanding what my everyday thoughts are, kind of having compassion for the things that I'm going through. So let's just say I woke up and I started the morning with a headache and I stubbed my toe and maybe something that I wanted didn't really come through. And those things are making me feel really bad in my body physically. I start to have negative thoughts that say, Ashley, you're so dumb. Why can't you do anything right? And it spirals from there. In that moment where I'm having thoughts, I try to stop and I try to say to myself, Ashley, this is normal. Sometimes you wake up on the wrong side of the bed. Sometimes things don't go right, and that's okay. And every day doesn't have to be a great day. Some days are going to be really great, other days, not so much. And that's a part of being human. Just really saying things in a way that I would want a friend to say to me instead of saying things to myself that a bully or enemy would say to me. And that's kind of where my brain goes in a negative way. It starts to say really mean things to me. And I start saying really mean things to myself. And that means I start doing really mean things to myself. And I don't want to do that. I really want to be able to help myself. So that's really where the everyday part of my journey is, really trying to take things slow and having compassion for myself. That's really where it starts. And over time, when I say, okay, I'm having a bad day, I'm going to clock out. I'm not going to give up on my dreams. I'm not giving up. What it is that I'm clocking out right now. I'm taking a moment. Maybe it is 5 minutes. Maybe it's the rest of the day. I'm unplugging and I'm going to watch some Uncle Grandpa. It's one of the cartoons that I watch that for me is when I'm at my lowest, it really helps me come back to neutral because the colors are vibrant. It's really silly and goofy, and it doesn't really evoke a lot of emotions. So that's kind of a practical thing, like an actual thing that I do.
That's actually very interesting because I actually do the same with watching a show or something that takes my mind off of it, because I have my own comfort show that helps me throughout the day when I wake up feeling, I guess, I don't know, feeling very blue. So that helps a lot. And I find it surprising about where you mentioned how you start saying positive things to yourself, because I know that usually people once they have negative thoughts take over, it's hard for them to draw themselves back into trying to say positive things about themselves. So I actually find that very surprising and very helpful. And I think I might start taking that advice myself as well.
Yeah, and it can be really hard at first. I'm not trying to radically say the most positive thing I can think of. What I really try to do is state what's happening and kind of be neutral and say it's okay. Whatever is happening right now, it's real, it's okay, and you're going to get through it. That's kind of the way that I talk to myself.
That's actually really good. I think I will start taking that advice because I usually have those moments as well. And I usually just let that ruin my whole day. But I might start doing that and see if that helps. My next question is, would you be interested in being a social worker or working in school buildings? If so, why or why not?
This is a really, really interesting question because for a long time, I actually thought I wanted to be a teacher. And I've thought about doing social work and things like that. But right now, I think that sometimes in different industries or fields, we see kind of the more glamorous aspects of a role or a career. For a teacher, that glamorous part may look like, oh, that person is really helping kids to learn. They have a purpose. They're really contributing to the world. But the other thing that I've had the opportunity to see from other people that I've worked with is that it's not a lot of flexibility. And it's really hard to do the work that they are asked to do because they have so much on the back end that they're required to do and that they're, responsible for. Whereas as a peer and as a mental health advocate, I get an opportunity for my role to really be more on the supportive end in a more creative way that really implements the things that I'm really good at. And I kind of like that aspect.
Yeah, that's good because I know that like a lot of schools lack in like social workers and don't really have like those sources available. So I feel like if every school has like a social worker, it's like really gonna be beneficial and it's gonna like actually improve students' like well being. Because presently in my school, we currently have a social worker, and I think it's like very helpful because most of the kids that I used to see that were like very quiet or like deal with like their own mental health problems, I've seen a lot of progress in them. I'm like very proud of that progress too because like very noticeable. They're like more active and everything. So I feel like yeah, probably by having more social workers, it'll be very beneficial.
I absolutely agree with that. And, having more people that really understand mental health and are able to help young people as well as their families really understand mental health and how things are affecting them in school can be really helpful. I definitely value every role of people that are in the mental health field because it takes all of us so that people can have more access to help.
So my last final question would be, what do you hope people come away with knowing about peer support?
I think in all, I hope that people know that there are people out there that want to help. So there are different ways to be able to be involved in mental health and be able to help people and just be supportive. If you go to your doctor, or a therapist or something, you may be able to find support groups. Those people work in peer support. You may be able to go to a seminar or workshop in your community. You may be able to, if you go to a organization like Thresholds in Chicago or something like that, that's a big mental health organization. Those organizations do have peer support specialists, and peer support specialists that may have a different term. It might be as a peer mentor. It might be as a recovery support specialist. They use different names sometimes, community health worker. And, there are more opportunities now. People are really fighting legislation for more opportunities for peer support. And there is a credential that those people who work in peer support can have so that they can make more money, as well as organizations know they are being trained in how to administer peer support. So I hope that people just Google it and see, what's really out there and what's in their community.
Thank you for sharing that. I've heard about bills that like are introduced for like mental health, and some of them like don't really make it to the Senate. So because I like to advocate like for myself and for like everyone else.
Yeah. Where I get a lot of information is from being on NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, their newsletter, as well as DBSA, which is the Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance. DBSA right now is doing a lot of work around legislation, and they send out a newsletter that helps people understand like what bill they're supporting and what they can do to be able to help.
Thank you so much, and I'll be checking those out.
But also, I want to add, like, for me, I have a hard time from my mental health. I have anxiety too. Feel like nervous is like butterfly in their stomachs, and also like sweaty hands, like you're really nervous. So I've been feeling that before. I just want to share that.
Yeah, those are really like typical things that happen with anxiety. So I really understand that. Even though I'm okay with public speaking, I still get nervous. Like I got nervous today and I just kind of had to move around so that I didn't get too much in my head today because, my brain is like, okay, well if you practice the questions, or if you think of all the questions they could possibly ask you, then maybe you'll be perfect, and maybe it will, and maybe you won't have anxiety. And the answer is that's not true. And I'm still going to be nervous, and I have to just breathe and sometimes distract myself and do the best I can, and know that whenever I go somewhere, I'm just going to do the best that I can. And usually people really like that.
So once again, thank you for being here tonight. And do you have any questions for us?
I don't really have any questions. I just want to say thank you for this opportunity, and for thinking about me, but also for being open to learning about mental health and careers in mental health. Peer support is really something that needs to have more people talk about it, because people don't really know that if they are in recovery from a mental health condition, that they could even do anything to help other people. They may feel like, oh, well, I actually still have challenges, so I can't possibly help someone. And it's not about being cured. It's not about oh, you have to be recovered in a certain way. It's really about just helping people to know that there's hope, and that they can be helped, and more people can have support.
Thank you for that, and we appreciate all the advice you gave us and that the responses too, because those were good responses that could help us eventually. Because I personally want to major in psychology to be a therapist myself. But thank you so much for being here tonight once again. And yeah, I'll pass it on to my co-host Alejandro so he could close it off.
Thank you for listening to Power Your Story. Follow us on social media on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you all.
Power Your Story podcast is produced by students at After School Matters with production support from the Creative and Poster Studios.
Find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at Power Your Story Podcast.
Got a question or suggestion for our show? Contact us at poweryourstorypodcast.com. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.